I'm going to start with you, William, and then we will get to Anthony, although we will say this story really begins with you, sir. But William, I want to begin with you because after years of working as an editor, I feel that when you make a first feature, doing one with such heart is something that maybe an editor can do. Because for folks you don't know, editors are therapists, they're your best girlfriend, they are your worst enemy, they make the story. So I'd love for you to talk about why this was the story you wanted to make your first directorial debut with.
Yeah, thank you. I was looking for something that moved me. I've been looking for something to direct for about maybe 10 or 12 years. And, when I did Argo and I was lucky enough to win an Academy Award, people started coming to me, managers and agents, are you interested? And I was, and then, but I realized having a full-time job as an editor and looking for material to direct didn't really go together. So luckily for me, a friend who's a producer on the film brought me the story, and I was just amazed by, and I was like, one of those, I need to know more about this. When you hear something like that, I need to go, and I go on the internet and look at every single thing I could find, and then I read Anthony's book and was so moved by the story, and then I went to Arizona and met Antony, and I met Judy, and that sort of sealed the deal for me. I never met really anybody like Antony, who's such an incredibly gifted athlete, but also incredible person who has this incredible effect on people around him, and it's that seeing him interact with people and with kids at this wrestling camp we went to, and it was magical. So I thought, this is something I'm really passionate about. I feel really strongly to tell this story, and I think it'll make people feel better, and just bring a little sort of joy to the world. So I decided this would be the one.
It is such in so many ways, a comfortable, but also just such uplifting story. That was the first thing I thought when I watched it, is it inspires you. Like, I cannot let what I have right now, when you see somebody like Anthony and what he decided to do and persevere, because I think I'm a quitter by nature if I was up against that kind of obstacles. But one of the obstacles you had was assembling a cast, and so you got people like Miss Jennifer Lopez here, and folks like Bobby Carnival, and obviously our lead actor, Mr. Jerome. Yeah. For you, sir, I know you're a very thoughtful young man, even though you're still very early on in your career, and I know taking on a role like this is one where you didn't just take it lightly. You knew the commitment that would have to be, but also you knew this was a story that I think you could bring your own light to it. So talk a little bit about your journey to portraying Anthony on screen.
Yes, thank you, first of all. I got the project in 2019, so this was 5 years ago, and I met Antony in a gym, which was dumb. Because that's where he did like 30 more pull-ups than I did, and I realized how much work I had to do. Before I met him, I saw a YouTube video of him. It was like 10 minutes long, and he's so charming, and the big smile, and he lights up the room, and he's so bright and positive. And I'm like, all right, cool, that's a very nice guy. And then the next video I watch, he's wrestling on a mat, body slamming this dude down, and like aggressively with his hand on the back of this guy's neck. And I'm like, all right, that's a really mean guy. And to me, as an actor, that's the type of role you want to explore, and you want to find the thread between the two people that Antony is, and he's a wrestler on the mat as much as he's a wrestler off the mat. So I wanted to make sure I found like the brute part of him and the monstrous part of him, but also the human in him and the vulnerable side, and who he is as not a wrestler but a son. And yeah, I got to be with him the entire way. He was my wrestling coach, he was my physical trainer, and he was my body double and stunt double the entire way. So, which is amazing.
And of course, we wouldn't even be here without Anthony's incredible book. And I'm coming to him, I swear, but he's going to make us cry, and so I want to say it. Listen, I've watched enough videos. I know where this is going. Miss Jennifer Lopez, ma'am, I want to talk to you about this because I think it's a daunting task to play a real life person. It's not something that you haven't done before, but in this one, you forged a unique friendship along that journey with Judy. So I would love for you to talk about what that was like to not only portray this real life woman through some of the most difficult points of her life, but also knowing that she was kind of next to you as it's happening, and that's probably very unique.
Yeah, it's a huge responsibility. It's a huge responsibility to play any real person. We do these characters and they're fictional and it's fine and we can play and color and, outside the lines and nobody really has anything to kind of hold it up against. But when you play a real person, you have the responsibility to tell their story accurately. You have a responsibility, when they're not there, when they passed on, but when they're alive and they're gonna see it and they're gonna sit next to you and they're gonna be like, hey, that wasn't very good, So it was a blessing. It was a blessing, but it also added, I won't say pressure, it added responsibility to me that I took very seriously. And the first time I met Judy was on Zoom, and we really bonded over the fact that we were moms. We understood that this was obviously her son's story on the page, but as I got to know Judy and then as I got to know Anthony, I realized that it was really their story, because Anthony wouldn't be Anthony without Judy, and he says that all the time. And when you see them together, you can see the very special bond they have, and you can see how he feels about her and how much she shaped his thoughts and turned him into a champion and into the great human, the champion of a human being that he is. And in turn, as our children can sometimes do, they and often do, is turn us into somebody better, right? And so for talking to Judy, it was a beautiful experience to speak with her. I really wanted to make her comfortable, make her trust me, knowing that she could say anything to me, and if she didn't want me to use it in the movie or say something about it or anything, I would never. But that anything that she could give me, and everything, I could internalize it and I could really use it to play her accurately. And because she did that, I was able to really add a lot of things to the script that weren't there from the beginning, and I think that really helped tell the story, maybe that wasn't so on the page, of these two, that was so kind of integral to who they were as people, and to the story. But yeah, we definitely got close. Judy knows everything about me, and I know everything about Judy.
Tell it.
We know some real things. Yeah.
This is a story of two people becoming, really, and becoming together, and they happen to be, mother and son, but they're educating each other, and that sort of conversation happens throughout the film. But let me just say it, Judy, when did you find out the woman that did Selena was going to play you? That's got to be a day.
I have to say that, I was a little shocked, because I thought that this is Anthony lied. I thought, Anthony, you're lying to me. There's no way that this happened. But it was such an overwhelming, feeling to have someone like Jennifer Lopez play you. It's still very unreal to this day. But what I think was perfect about it is that she captured all of me. Thoughts, feelings, emotions. I can see myself on her. See, I'm saying myself. I'm seeing that, and I'm going, oh, Judy, stop it. And I'm going, but that, that's you, but that's her. So it was the feeling. It was just a weird kind of, I'm getting you, but because she spent so much time to get to know me and added so much of me and the relationship that Anthony and I share, we're very close. It's something that we've known forever, but Jharrel and Jennifer were able to see that and to pull it out of us, because even he and I had to have some conversations ahead of time, like, what did we do and how did we act like this, and it in doing that it helped them, but that's shown. And I think it was because of the care and the love that everybody involved put into it and who saw us. And I know that she absolutely did a wonderful job, and my family is very happy with it. My kids see me in this role, the feistiness, the sadness, the joy, but exactly what I would want people to see me represented. And even though it was really hard to be so vulnerable, I trusted her. I trusted her with every part of it. And that is not something that's easy for me to do, who's been through so many things. But yes, she's Jennifer Lopez. But she also became just Jennifer, just somebody that I could talk to. And I think that's what helped.
I mean, it's such an achingly authentic story, and you feel that these characters are so lived in, and I think it's because of the dynamic that y'all set in the pre-production, the behind the scenes. But for you, Anthony, I have to wonder what this process was like for you, because obviously you had this dogged determination and you lived these events, and then you memorialized them in a memoir. But seeing them on the big screen, seeing the production process, being involved in the production process, was there ever any moment of uncanny valley for you, literally putting yourself back in some of these moments or watching them over again? Which one was the most satisfying or the most difficult through that process?
Just being on set was extremely special because it was like every single day I was going back in time, reliving those moments of victory, of happiness, of times where we were celebrating as a family, and also certain moments of the pain. But I think the moments that stick out to me in particular was a scene where Anthony's talking to Coach Williams on that field, and that was really just the things in my head that I really struggled as a kid just growing up to say, and I kept inside. That scene captured it perfectly, and Jerrel gave me a voice there. And my entire life, I related to a wrestling match. And there are certain times in a wrestling match when I'm out there competing, we'll go out of bounds and it gets quiet. Right, the crowd gets quiet to let the guys reset. During those moments is when my mom would like to yell, like words of encouragement, and I always knew that's my mom right there. But that was something that it transferred off the wrestling mat too. It was always my mom's voice in my head yelling that I could do it in my life as I was struggling through things, and Jennifer captured that. And so it was just really special for me to be on set, to watch these individuals just share our life story, but capture it so well to where I was reliving those moments. I was just like, wow, this is our life right here. This is special. And the painful things, with the stepfather, that was hard. But that was something that we really went through, and after talking over it as a family, we felt like we really needed to share that. We needed to be vulnerable in those moments and just be open. And luckily, it was with a group that we could really trust to share those feelings with. But we knew in order to make this film and allow it to inspire as many people as possible, that pain needed to be shared. And so it wasn't fun to relive those moments, but we knew why we were reliving it. And it was for an ultimate, a bigger cause than just us. And that's what made it easier to get through that.
I really appreciate you guys putting your story out there like this, because you're right, it is incredibly powerful. The filmmaking, I think, these performances, everything adds to that. William, for you though, you're an editor, so you're doing this kind of reverse engineering in a lot of ways, but there's a shot list, there's an idea of what you have to get, and in a story like this, there's those hero moments, those high conflict moments. Which were the ones that you were sort of circling on your outline where you're like, okay, we gotta get it here. If we don't get it here, it's not gonna happen? And which ones were you, most interested to make sure y'all nailed, because you knew it was essential to the story?
Oh, I think I don't even know if I could pick one. Every moment was, it's like every chain is as strong as weakest link, sort of thing. That's why we paid so much attention to every single detail and to make sure that we got everything 100% right. The things that come to mind, the scene that you guys are just talking about, and the thing that is, I think makes this film so sort of universal is when my daughter, who's 20, who doesn't know anything about sports and really, doesn't care anything about sports, but she heard the line, I'm running out of time to be someone, and she said to me, that is how every single one of my friends and I feel all the time. That there's this pressure to be and to move ahead and it's it struck me how amazing that is, that this is such a unique story of Anthony's, but it relates to even my 20-year-old daughter who doesn't know anything about this story, or that didn't then, and so and Jharrel did such an incredible job with that scene, and it just meant so much to me. But I think the moment he wins in the high school, or excuse me, in the national finals at the end, we wanted to make sure that was had to be the culmination of all this hard work and all this struggle and the feeling of that. And then the moment between Jennifer and Jharrel at the end when they sort of celebrate together. You know, that had to be, you know, just right, and it was something that Judy shared with Jennifer about what they said to each other. That, you know, you did it, and then Jharrel or Anthony said we did it, and you know, so those moments, you know, because you want people to walk out of the theater talking about, you know, something and feeling like, you know, completely uplifted, and you know, the letter scene. I mean, there's so many scenes that I could say that about that. And I was so lucky to have such a tremendous cast to bring those moments to life. I mean, it feels unfair as a first-time director to have that kind of cast. I mean, they all made me look better every day.
I mean, I will say the reverse Rudy scene where he's like faking him out with a scholarship. That one is the one that I was. It is a reverse. It is. It was you know, but that was a great moment as well. I want to bring it to the technical side with Jharrel and Anthony, because in addition to everything, the wrestling matches, that is very intense choreography. That is choreography that has to be inclusive and reflect somebody living with a disability. I'd love for you both to talk about how you came to that, how much movement work you did with that. And Jharrel, I'll start with you.
I was hoping you start with Anthony.
No, he's going to clean it up.
You're cleaning up my mess.
No.
Here we go. What was the question? No, it's fine.
How did you wrestle?
Yeah, like I said earlier, Anthony trained me. So, you know, it's one thing to learn how to wrestle, but it's another thing to learn how to wrestle like Anthony. It's his style, and only he knows his style, and he's mastered it and perfected it. So I could have looked all over the country for the best wrestling coach who just trains last Olympic, but he still can't train me the way Anthony could. So not only that, but he's a damn good coach, and he's really good at it. And so let me just remind everybody though, I ain't become a pro wrestler during this process. It was a lot of choreography, and it was planned out and plotted, and we called it a violent dance almost, especially because, you know, if we made one false move, we can really hurt ourselves. In a boxing film, you have to fake it. You can't keep knocking somebody over the head. Wrestling, you can't really fake that. You know, I'm really getting lifted up in the air and dropped down to the floor. So for me, it wasn't learning.
That wasn't CGI.
Yeah, it wasn't. I sure wish it was. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't about learning how to wrestle like Anthony or be Anthony. Nobody could do that. Only Anthony could be Anthony. It was about learning how to embody him, and that for me was the confidence of a wrestler. So day one, when you lifted me in the air, I was screaming like a little girl on the way down, terrified. But by midway through the process, shut up, Jen. By midway through the process, you know, I'm up in the air like, wee! And hitting the ground and right back up, ready to keep going. And that's when I started to feel like Anthony. It wasn't when I was, you know, beating other wrestlers, because I wouldn't. But it was, you know, when I felt confident and upright, my posture, my strength. And it wasn't my physical strength, but my mental strength.
And then for you, Anthony, I'll say it's different. I've spoken to Kaylee Reese, who's a UFC fighter, and she also did stunts for True Detective. She said it's harder because when you're in the ring and when you're really fighting, you just try to murder the other person. You have to learn how not to murder Jharrel or whichever actor you're against. So what was that like for you, being, again, body double and stunt performer in it?
That definitely was a unique challenge going into it, because I'm used to just going out there and I say trying to maul my opponent. I'm just trying to just destroy them. So we're working together, but Jharrel, I think he said it correctly. We called it a violent dance, just working together, but also just bringing that intensity to it. It was 100%, that level that we were going out there wrestling with, and that's a testament to the other Division I current or former wrestlers that were a part of the film, and also for Jharrel, because for me, I could showcase my wrestling no problem, because I've been doing it since I was 14. But it was only a matter of how high I could raise that bar. It depended on Jharrel. And so going into practice every single day, it was him just nailing those little details about how I moved on to wrestling, how I adjusted my body, how I hit certain angles for my attacks, that he really dialed down to allow me as his double to just really express myself freely as a wrestler out there. So it was pretty neat to see his confidence build and just him develop as a wrestler. And as we were on set, all of the other wrestlers were coming up to me like, how long has he been doing this? Because he's really picking it up. And so I think that's the ultimate compliment.
But I do.
We only have a couple more minutes, but I want wanted to talk to you, Miss Jennifer Lopez, about this because I've seen a lot of your movies, and let's just put it plainly, you're a badass in so many of them. But there was a vulnerability in this one that I felt was really interesting because she eventually becomes a badass. I mean, we all see Judy sitting there. But having her come from a place where we know she's not making the right decisions as a mom, that was actually new. And I think that may be new for you. What was that like for you, sort of showing those colors in this one and that journey over the 5 years?
You know, it's funny, and I haven't said this really, but when I read the script and I knew that was part of her struggle, I knew I had something to give to that from my own life. And so it was a kind of a perfect thing at the perfect time for me to kind of, I think I was ready to kind of open up and tap into some of that stuff that I hadn't, for a very long time, but what I knew was there and that I wanted to, you know, use. And it's funny, these things come to you at certain times in your life. And, you know, Jharrel has talked about how this has changed him. It also helped heal a little parts of me as well. So, knowing that and being ready for that and knowing that it would be good for me, in a way, to dig down deep, and you get these parts, and as an actor, you kind of pray for them. You pray for those things, those roles that you uniquely, you know, are blessed with. And it's like, this one's for you. Now go and do the thing that you do, and, you know, don't hold back. And every day on the set, I would think about that. And every day when I was in my trailer and I was looking at all the pictures of Judy, and I knew the scenes that we were going to do, and a lot of them were very emotional. I remember one time me and Jharrel were like, we're not going to cry in this scene. Because every scene was like, we were so emotional. I was like, how are we going to do this different, you know? But that's what it required. That's what it required, because the thing that makes it so amazing and so triumphant is the struggle, is the pain, and being able to find a way to overcome that, and move through it. And I think after all of it, you look at yourself and you go, you know what? I'm a human, I struggle. Judy struggled, but she found her way out, like she said. And that's the important thing, is that you find your way out.
Thank you. Man, I want to talk